Don't come closer, Jimin. If you still trust me, just stay away. The words came out of Jungkook's mouth like a blade, sharp and unfamiliar, slicing through the humid night air behind the dimly lit studio. His voice trembled, not with weakness, but with something far more terrifying, restraint. Jimin froze mid-step. The faint buzz of neon lights flickered above them, casting broken shadows across Jungkook's face. There was something wrong with his eyes, not anger, not even sadness. It was distance, like he was already somewhere else, far beyond Jimin's reach. What are you talking about? Jimin's voice cracked despite his effort to stay calm. He took another step forward, slower this time, cautious, as if approaching a wounded animal. You've been avoiding me for weeks. No calls, no answers, and now this. Jungkook clenched his fists. His nails dug into his palms, grounding himself in pain as memories surged uncontrollably behind his eyes. The late-night laughter, shared silence, the warmth of Jimin's presence, everything he was now trying to destroy with his own hands. I said don't come closer, Jungkook repeated, softer but more dangerous. Jimin stopped again, this time not because he wanted to, but because something in Jungkook's tone made his chest tighten. Fear crept in, unfamiliar and unwelcome. Look at me, Jimin whispered. Jungkook hesitated. That was all Jimin needed. Look at me and tell me what I did wrong. Question hung between them, heavy and suffocating. Jungkook finally lifted his head, and for a split second, the mask slipped. Guilt, raw, suffocating guilt. You didn't do anything wrong, Jungkook said. Then why are you pushing me away like I'm the problem? Jimin shot back, his voice rising now, emotion breaking through the cracks. Why are you acting like I'm someone you need to escape from? Jungkook's breathing became uneven. He looked away again, jaw tightening as if holding back words that threatened to ruin everything. Because if I stay, you'll get hurt. The thought echoed in his mind, louder than anything else. Because they're watching, because it's already started. I just need space, Jungkook muttered, the weakest lie he had ever told. Jimin laughed bitterly, shaking his head. Space, that's what this is. You disappearing, avoiding me, barely even looking at me during rehearsals, that's just space. Jungkook didn't answer. Because the truth was far worse, 3 weeks ago Jungkook had received a message. No name, no number, just a video. At first it looked harmless, just a clip of him and Jimin laughing backstage, unaware of the camera. But then came the second clip, and the third, moments that were never meant to be seen, private, intimate, dangerous. Then the message appeared, stay away from him or the world sees everything. Jungkook had laughed at first. He thought it was a joke. A cruel attempt at blackmail that wouldn't go anywhere, until the second message came. A location, a time, and a photo of Jimin taken that very day. That's when Jungkook realized this wasn't a threat, it was control. You're lying, Jimin said quietly now, his voice no longer angry but wounded. I can tell when you're lying, swallowed hard. Then stop trying to read me. Stop giving me reasons to, Jimin replied immediately. Silence fell again, thicker this time. Jimin's hands trembled slightly at his sides, but he forced himself to stay still. He studied Jungkook carefully, noticing every detail, the tension in his shoulders, the way he avoided eye contact, the subtle shake in his breath. This wasn't distance, this was fear. Did something happen? Jimin asked, softer now. Did someone say something to you? Are you in trouble? Jungkook's heart skipped. Too close. You don't need to worry about me, Jungkook said quickly. That's not your decision to make. Tis when it concerns you. Jimin blinked, confused. What does that even mean? Jungkook took a step back, then another. Every movement felt like tearing himself apart, piece by piece. It means, Jungkook's voice dropped to almost a whisper, the safest place for you right now is as far away from me as possible. Jimin's expression shattered. For a moment he couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The words didn't make sense, but the way Jungkook said them did. It wasn't rejection, it was sacrifice. But for what, Jungkook? Jimin said slowly, stepping forward again despite everything. Whatever this is, you don't have to handle it alone. I do, you don't. I do, Jungkook snapped louder than intended. The sudden outburst echoed in the empty alley, startling them both. Jungkook immediately regretted it. He ran a hand through his hair, turning away, trying to regain control. Please, he said, quieter now. Just trust me on this. Stared at him, eyes glistening under the flickering light. Trust you, Jimin repeated. You're asking me to trust you while you're shutting me out without explanation. Jungkook didn't answer, because there was no answer he could give, not without putting Jimin directly in danger. I don't care what it is, Jimin continued, his voice breaking now. If you're hurting, I'm staying. If you're in trouble, I'm helping. That's how this works. That's how it's always worked. Jungkook closed his eyes. That's exactly why you have to leave. Another message had come earlier that day. A single sentence. He's getting too close to the truth. Jungkook's chest tightened at the memory. He didn't know who they were. He didn't know how far their reach extended. But he knew one thing with terrifying certainty: they weren't bluffing. And if Jimin stayed, go, Jungkook said suddenly. Jimin stiffened. Before I say something I can't take back, shook his head, stepping even closer now, refusing to retreat. No, not like this. Jungkook finally looked at him again, really looked. Memorizing every detail as if it might be the last time, the softness in Jimin's eyes, the stubborn determination, the warmth that had always pulled him back. No matter how far he drifted, it hurt more than anything else. I'm sorry, Jungkook whispered. And in that moment, Jimin understood something terrifying. This wasn't just distance, this was goodbye, but not because Jungkook wanted it, because he believed he had no other choice. Jimin's heart pounded as realization dawned, whatever Jungkook was hiding. It wasn't about pushing him away, it was about protecting him, and that only made Jimin more certain of one thing: he wasn't leaving, not now, not ever. Even if Jungkook tried to disappear completely, Jimin would find him, because some distances weren't meant to exist, and some secrets refused to stay buried. The studio door slammed shut behind Jungkook, the echo reverberating through the narrow hallway like a gunshot. Jimin didn't chase him, not immediately. Instead, he stood there, frozen under the dim light, his chest rising and falling unevenly as Jungkook's last words replayed over and over in his mind. The safest place for you is far away from me. It didn't sound like rejection. It sounded like a warning, and Jimin had never been good at walking away from warnings. He exhaled slowly, dragging a hand down his face before turning toward the door Jungkook had just disappeared through. For a brief moment, hesitation crept in, an unfamiliar doubt whispering that maybe, just maybe, Jungkook meant what he said. But then he remembered the look in Jungkook's eyes, fear, not for himself, for Jimin. That was all it took. Jimin pushed the door open. The hallway beyond was quiet, eerily so. The usual hum of late-night staff had vanished, leaving only the faint buzz of overhead lights and the distant echo of footsteps. Jungkook's footsteps, fast, rushed, like he was running from something or someone. Jimin called out, his voice cutting through the silence. No response. Jimin quickened his pace, sneakers squeaking softly against the polished floor as he followed the sound. Pulse picked up with every step, a strange sense of urgency tightening around his chest. Something was wrong, not just emotionally wrong, dangerously wrong. He turned the corner sharply and stopped. The hallway ahead was empty, completely empty. Jimin frowned, confusion flashing across his face. There was no way Jungkook could have disappeared that quickly. There were only two exits, the stairwell at the far end and the elevator near the middle, and yet nothing. He called again, softer this time, still nothing. A chill crept up Jimin's spine, then buzz, the sound came from his pocket. Jimin flinched slightly before pulling out his phone. The screen lit up, illuminating his face in the dim hallway. Unknown number, a single message. His heart sank before he even opened it. Stop looking for him. Jimin's breath hitched. For a moment the world seemed to tilt. Slowly, almost unwillingly, he tapped the message open. Another line appeared beneath it. If you care about Jungkook, you'll stay away. Jimin's fingers tightened around the phone. He whispered, shaking his head. No, this doesn't make any sense. His mind raced, trying to piece together what was happening. Jungkook's sudden distance, the fear, the warning, and now this. It wasn't coincidence. It was connected. Buzz, another message. This time it wasn't text. It was an image. Jimin hesitated. Every instinct told him not to open it. But he did anyway. The moment the image loaded, his stomach dropped. It was Jungkook. Standing outside the building, alone, but not really, because in the reflection of the glass behind him, there was someone else. A figure watching. Jimin's breath came out in a sharp gasp. What the hell? The photo wasn't taken from far away. It was close, too close. Whoever sent it, they were right there, watching Jungkook, watching them. Jimin's chest tightened painfully as realization hit him. This wasn't just about Jungkook anymore. It was about both of them, and whoever was behind this, they wanted Jimin to know. Wanted him to be afraid, but fear was what Jimin felt, not entirely. Beneath the shock, beneath the confusion, something else began to rise. Anger, cold, focused, dangerous. You think I'm just going to walk away? Jimin muttered under his breath, his grip on the phone tightening. You don't know me at all. Looked back down at the image, studying it more carefully this time. The angle, the lighting, the reflection, details mattered, and Jimin noticed things most people didn't. The figure in the reflection wasn't clear, but there were hints. A dark jacket, a cap pulled low, the outline of something in their hand, a phone, of course. They were recording, collecting, controlling. Jimin's jaw clenched. Fine, he whispered. If you want to play this game, his eyes darkened with determination, then I'm not playing by your rules. Turned and headed toward the stairwell, his steps quick and purposeful now. If Jungkook had gone outside, he wasn't going to waste time with the elevator. Every second mattered, because whoever this was, they were already one step ahead. Outside, the night air hit Jungkook like a slap, cold, sharp. Real, he welcomed it, anything to keep his mind from spiraling. He walked quickly, hands shoved into his pockets, head down. The streets were mostly empty at this hour, the city lights casting long shadows across the pavement. But he didn't feel alone. He hadn't felt alone for weeks. And that was the problem. Buzz, Jungkook stopped. Slowly, he pulled out his phone. He didn't need to check the screen to know who it was. Unknown number, always. He opened the message. You didn't listen. Jungkook's chest tightened. I did, he muttered under his breath. I told him to stay away. Message came instantly, not well enough. Jungkook's hands trembled slightly. What do you want from me? He whispered, frustration bleeding into his voice. I'm doing everything you said. He's still looking for you. Jungkook froze. The words felt like ice in his veins. He breathed. He wouldn't look behind you. Jungkook's heart slammed against his ribs. Slowly, painfully, he turned. At first, he saw nothing, just the empty street, the dim glow of streetlights, the reflection of himself in a nearby window. And then he saw it, a figure standing across the street, watching. Jungkook's breath caught. They didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there like a shadow that had taken shape. And in that moment, Jungkook understood something with terrifying clarity. This wasn't going to stop. Not unless he made it stop. His phone buzzed again. Last warning. Jungkook clenched his jaw, his fear slowly twisting into something sharper, something more dangerous. He had been running, avoiding, trying to protect Jimin by staying silent, but silence wasn't working. And distance wasn't enough. If anything, it was making things worse. Jungkook lifted his head, his gaze locking onto the figure across the street. For the first time in weeks, he didn't look away. Then come out, Jungkook said quietly, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. If you want me, stop hiding. The figure tilted their head slightly, as if amused, as if this was all just a game. Jungkook took a step forward, then another. Every instinct screamed at him to stop, but he didn't, because running had never been his style. And if this was a fight, then he was done. Backing down behind him, footsteps echoed faintly, fast. Approaching, Jungkook's eyes widened slightly. No, not now. He didn't even need to turn to know who it was. Jungkook, Jimin's voice, closer than it should have been, closer than Jungkook had wanted. Everything inside him tensed. This was exactly what he had tried to prevent, exactly what they had warned him about. Jungkook closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again, resolve hardening. If this was going to happen, then he wasn't letting Jimin face it alone. Even if it meant everything falling apart, even if it meant the truth finally coming out.
Stop, Jimin, don't come any closer. Jungkook's voice cracked through the night just as Jimin reached the edge of the street, breathless, eyes wide with urgency. The city lights blurred behind him, but his focus never left Jungkook. Too late, he was already there. Jimin didn't slow down. I'm not leaving you again, he said, his voice firm despite the tremor underneath. Not when something like this is happening. Jungkook's expression tightened, frustration and fear colliding in his eyes. You do understand. Then make me understand. Jimin shot back, stepping closer until there was barely any space between them. Because right now all I see is you trying to push me away while someone is clearly watching you. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Jungkook's eyes flickered past Jimin across the street. The figure was still there, waiting, watching. Jungkook's hand shot out instinctively, grabbing Jimin's wrist. We need to leave. Now. Stiffened at the sudden contact but didn't resist. Talk while we move. Jungkook hesitated. He had spent weeks building walls, carefully keeping Jimin out of danger by keeping him in the dark. But now those walls had already been broken. There was no more safe distance. They've been following me, Jungkook said finally, his voice low as he pulled Jimin along the sidewalk. For weeks, messages, photos, videos, they know everything. Jimin's chest tightened. What do you mean everything? Jungkook didn't answer immediately. That alone was enough. Jimin's breath caught. Us? Jungkook's silence confirmed it. For a moment, the world around Jimin seemed to fade into nothing but noise. Cars passing, distant voices, the hum of the city, none of it mattered, only that one truth. They're blackmailing you, Jimin said quietly. Jungkook exhaled sharply. At first, I thought it was just threats, but then they started sending proof, private moments, things no one should have access to. Jimin's mind raced. So you thought pushing me away would fix it? I thought it would protect you. Jimin stopped walking. Jungkook was forced to stop too, turning back to face him. That's not protection, Jimin said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. That's you carrying everything alone and hopping I won't get hurt. But look around, Jungkook, I'm already in it. Jungkook's jaw tightened, he knew that. He had known it the moment Jimin stepped into that alley earlier, but hearing it out loud made it real in a way he couldn't ignore. I didn't have a choice, Jungkook muttered. You always have a choice, Jimin replied. You just made it without me. The words hit harder than anything else that night. Jungkook looked away, guilt flashing across his face. If I told you, you would have stayed anyway. Exactly. That's the problem. No, Jimin said, stepping closer again, softer now but unwavering. That's the solution. Jungkook's breath faltered for a moment. Neither of them spoke. Then footsteps, not theirs, both of them froze, slow, deliberate, echoing from behind. Jungkook's grip on Jimin tightened instinctively as they both turned. The figure from across the street was gone, but someone else had taken their place, closer, much closer, standing at the edge of the dimly lit sidewalk, partially hidden by shadow. Jimin's heart pounded. Is that? I don't know, Jungkook whispered. The figure stepped forward, streetlight flickered and revealed just enough dark clothing. Cap pulled low, face still obscured, but this time they weren't holding a phone, they were holding something else. A small device, blinking red. Jungkook's stomach dropped. Jimin, he said slowly, his voice barely above a whisper, we need to move right now. Jimin didn't move, his eyes were locked on the device. What is that? He murmured. The figure tilted their head again, almost casually. Then, for the first time, they spoke. You should have listened. The voice was distorted, mechanical, impossible to identify. Jungkook felt a surge of cold panic rush through him. What do you want? Demanded, stepping slightly in front of Jimin without thinking. The figure took another step forward. Control. Jimin frowned. Control over what? The figure's head tilted again, this time slower. Over what people see. Jungkook's mind raced. Photos, videos, surveillance. They're not just targeting us, he whispered. Jimin's eyes widened slightly as the realization spread. They're collecting information, Jimin said. On everyone. Figure didn't deny it, didn't confirm it either, but the silence was enough. And you're just going to expose it? Jungkook asked, his voice tightening. Destroy lives for what? The figure's grip on the device tightened slightly. For truth. Let out a disbelieving laugh. That's not truth, that's invasion. Truth doesn't ask for permission. The words hung in the air, chilling in their certainty. Jungkook's pulse pounded in his ears. This wasn't just blackmail, this was something bigger, something far more dangerous. Another step closer. The red light blinked faster now. Jungkook's instincts screamed. Run, he said suddenly. This time Jimin didn't argue. They moved at the same moment, turning sharply and sprinting down the street as the figure behind them remained still, watching, waiting. And just as they reached the corner, a sharp, piercing sound cut through the night, not loud, not explosive, but wrong. Jungkook glanced back instinctively, and his breath caught. The figure was gone, completely gone, as if they had never been there. Jimin slowed slightly, confusion flashing across his face. Where did they? Don't stop, Jungkook snapped, pulling him forward again. Because something felt off, too quiet, too sudden. And then Jimin's phone buzzed again. He stumbled slightly as he pulled it out, still running. Another message, this time just 2 words, check behind you. Jimin's blood ran cold, slowly, against every instinct screaming at him not to. He turned his head. And what he saw made his entire world stop. Because standing right behind them, closer than impossible, was not one figure, but several, watching, silent, and waiting. Jimin's breath shattered into pieces. For a fraction of a second, his body refused to move, as if the world had frozen around the image burned into his eyes. Multiple figures standing impossibly close behind them, their presence swallowing the dim light of the street. Jungkook. Jimin's voice came out barely audible. But Jungkook didn't need to look. He felt it, that suffocating shift in the air. The kind that warned you something had already gone too far. Turn around, Jungkook said quickly, his grip tightening around Jimin's wrist. Just keep walking, not running, not yet. Jimin swallowed hard, forcing his legs to move again. Every step felt unnatural, like walking through a nightmare where escape was just an illusion. His heartbeat pounded in his ears, drowning out everything else. They're right there, Jimin whispered. I know. How many? Too many. They walked faster now, controlled but urgent. The street ahead stretched endlessly, lights flickering like dying stars. There were no people, no cars, no witnesses, only them and whatever was behind them. Another buzz. Jimin flinched again, but this time Jungkook reacted first, snatching the phone gently but firmly from his hand. Jungkook muttered, but the screen had already lit up. A video auto-playing. Jungkook's stomach dropped. It was them right now from behind, walking, tracked, filmed. Jimin's voice trembled. They're streaming us. Jungkook didn't answer, because the truth was worse. They weren't just being watched, they were being controlled. Stay calm, Jungkook said, forcing his voice steady. They want a reaction, don't give it to them. clenched his jaw trying to steady his breathing. And what's the plan, because just walking while they film us like this doesn't feel like one. Jungkook's eyes scanned the street ahead rapidly, then he saw it. A narrow alley to the left, dark, hidden, risky. Trust me, Jungkook said. Jimin didn't hesitate. Always? That was enough. Jungkook pulled him sharply into the alley the moment they turned. Move. Jungkook snapped. Now they ran. Footsteps pounded against concrete, echoing violently between the walls. The alley twisted narrower and darker with each turn, shadows swallowing them whole. Behind them, footsteps more than before, faster, closer. They're following, Jimin shouted. I know. Jungkook's mind raced. Left, right, dead end, no, there. A metal door half open. Without slowing down, Jungkook shoved it open and pulled Jimin inside. Darkness swallowed them instantly. The air inside was cold, stale, thick with dust. It smelled abandoned, like a place no one had entered for years. Jungkook pushed the door shut as quietly as possible, then grabbed Jimin and pulled him deeper into the shadows. Make a sound, he whispered. Jimin nodded, barely breathing. Outside, footsteps rushed past. 1, 2, 3 more, then silence, long, heavy, uncertain. Jimin's chest rose and fell unevenly as he leaned slightly closer to Jungkook, their shoulders brushing in the darkness. They didn't see us, Jimin whispered. Not yet. Jungkook's voice was calm, but his body wasn't. Jimin could feel the tension in him, the way every muscle was ready to react, waiting, listening. Seconds stretched, then minutes, still nothing. Jimin exhaled slowly, some of the fear easing, but only slightly. What is this place? He murmured. Jungkook glanced around, eyes adjusting to the darkness. Faint outlines began to form, old shelves, broken equipment, a flickering light somewhere deeper inside. Storage, maybe, Jungkook said, or an abandoned service room. Nodded absently, still trying to process everything. They said truth, Jimin whispered. What kind of truth needs this? Jungkook didn't answer immediately, because deep down he was starting to understand. This isn't just about exposing people, Jungkook said slowly. It's about forcing them into situations. Capturing their reactions, their secrets. Jimin's eyes widened slightly. Like a test, he said. Jungkook nodded once. And we're the subjects. Silence fell again, but this time it wasn't just fear, it was realization. Jimin ran a hand through his hair, frustration bubbling up. So what, we just play along, let them watch, let them control everything? Jungkook's gaze darkened. No, Jimin looked at him. Something had changed. The fear was still there, but it was no longer in control. What are you thinking? Jimin asked carefully. Jungkook stepped slightly closer, lowering his voice. They're always one step ahead because we react, he said. We follow their moves, their messages, their timing. Jimin frowned. So we stop reacting. Jungkook shook his head. We make the next move. Jimin blinked. How? We don't even know who they are. Jungkook's lips pressed into a thin line. They know us, he said, which means they're watching closely, predicting us. A pause. Then what if we become unpredictable? Jimin stared at him for a moment, then slowly, a faint, almost dangerous smile appeared. That, Jimin murmured, sounds like a plan. Jungkook exhaled, tension easing just slightly. For the first time since this began, they weren't just running, they were thinking, fighting back. But before either of them could say anything else, a sound inside the room, not outside, not behind the door, deeper. A faint creak. Jimin's smile disappeared instantly. Jungkook's body tensed again. They both turned slowly toward the darkness ahead. The flickering light at the far end of the room buzzed weakly and then steadied, revealing something they hadn't noticed before. A camera mounted high in the corner, red light blinking, recording. Jimin's breath hitched. You've got to be kidding me. Jungkook's jaw tightened. They were never chasing us, he said quietly. Jimin looked at him, dread settling in. Then what were they doing? Jungkook didn't look away from the camera, guiding us. The red light blinked again, once, twice. And then a voice filled the room, clear, undistorted this time. Welcome to the next stage. Jimin's heart dropped because that voice, it wasn't unfamiliar, not at all. Jimin's breath caught in his throat. He whispered, eyes widening as the voice echoed through the abandoned room. That can't be. Jungkook didn't say anything. He was staring at the camera, unmoving, his entire body rigid as if every instinct inside him had just locked into place. The familiarity of that voice wasn't just unsettling. It was wrong. Because it meant one thing, this wasn't random, this was someone who knew them. The speaker crackled softly again, then steadied. You adapted faster than expected, the voice continued, calm and almost impressed. Running, hiding, observing, good, that means we can move forward, clenched his fists. "Show yourself," he shouted, stepping forward despite the fear clawing at his chest. "Stop hiding behind cameras and come out here." A pause, then a faint, almost amused exhale through the speaker. "Still impulsive, Jimin." Froze. Jungkook's eyes flickered toward him immediately. "They said your name, not just him, you." That single detail sent a deeper chill through the room. Jimin swallowed hard. "Who are you?" His voice was quieter now, but far more dangerous. Another pause, longer this time, as if the person on the other side was deciding something. "Then, you already know me." The words landed like a shockwave. Jungkook's heart started pounding harder. His mind raced through every possibility, every face, every voice he had heard before, but nothing fit perfectly. "Not yet." "You're lying," Jungkook said, his voice sharp, controlled. "If we knew you, we would have recognized you." A soft click, then the sound of something shifting like a filter being adjusted. "You recognize patterns, Jungkook," the voice replied. "Not people, that's your weakness." Jungkook's jaw tightened. That was too specific, too personal. Jimin stepped closer to him, his voice low. "They've been watching longer than we thought." Jungkook nodded slightly. "Not weeks. Maybe months, maybe more." "You said this is the next stage," Jungkook called out, his eyes never leaving the camera. "So what is this, some kind of experiment?" A brief silence, then, "Yes." Let out a disbelieving laugh. "You're insane. Observation requires pressure," the voice continued, ignoring him. "And pressure reveals truth, real emotions, real choices, real bonds." Jungkook's chest tightened. "Bonds, so that's what this was about." "You're testing us," Jungkook said quietly. "Correct." "What?" This time the answer came instantly. "To see what breaks first." Silence, heavy, suffocating. Jimin felt his stomach twist. "You think this is a game?" he snapped. "You've been stalking us, threatening us, manipulating everything just to see what breaks." "No," the voice replied calmly. "Not a game, a beat, a study." Jungkook's hands slowly curled into fists. "And what happens when your study ends?" he asked. The red light on the camera blinked once. "Then we decide what the world gets to see." Jimin's breath caught. Everything clicked into place. The recordings, the pressure, the forced reactions. "They're building a narrative," Jimin whispered. "Editing reality." Nodded slowly, dread settling deeper in his chest. "And we're the main characters." The speaker crackled again, almost as if acknowledging the accuracy. "Exactly." Jimin shook his head, anger rising again. "You don't get to control people like that. You don't get to decide what's real. Reality is perception," the voice replied smoothly. "And perception is easy to influence." Stepped forward, placing himself slightly in front of Jimin again. "Then you picked the wrong people," Jungkook said, his voice low but steady. "Because we're not going to play along." For the first time, the voice hesitated, just for a fraction of a second, but it was enough. Jimin noticed it too, and a small, dangerous spark ignited in his eyes. "You need us," Jimin said suddenly. Jungkook glanced at him, surprised. Jimin took another step forward, his gaze locked on the camera. "If this is really a study, then you can't finish it without us reacting the way you want," Jimin continued. "Which means you can't just destroy us whenever you feel like it." Silence. "Then, you're more perceptive than I anticipated," smirked faintly. "Thanks. Now answer the question you've been avoiding." A pause, then, slowly, "What question?" Jimin's eyes narrowed. "Why us?" The room went completely still. Even the faint hum of electricity seemed to fade. For a moment, it felt like the voice might not answer. Then, "Because your bond is unusual." Jungkook's breath faltered.